Hello and welcome to Upfront. I'm your host, Leanne Evans. On today's show, we'll be welcoming our federal member of parliament for Cardston, Warner, and Medicine Hat, Glen Motz. As I mentioned off the top, we are here with Glen Motz. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, Leanne. Thank you.
All right, so we want to start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Wow, that's a loaded question. How much time do you have?
Well, half an hour.
I'm an Albertan. Grew up in south central Alberta in ranch country. Strong farming and ranching background in my roots. That great foundation growing up. Came down here to Hillcrest Christian College back in the mid to late 70s. Met my wife here. She was also a student at the school. We were married a couple years later. And she robbed the cradle. But and in 1980, I joined the police department right after getting my degree, and I enjoyed. Was honored to serve this community in 35 years in policing, and retired in December of 15, and was content helping out some of the charitable organizations in our community that my wife and I have been involved in, and was not looking for anything specific, and this happened.
Now here you are, the member of parliament for Medicine Hat, Cardston, and Warner.
Yes.
Tell me about it. What inspired you to get into this?
You know, over the years, I guess, honestly, if I was to, look inside, there's always been it would be really interesting. It would be so honoring to serve people in that way. And I never ever pursued either as an MP or as a senator, I always thought. And I never shared that with anybody. I never really had any aspiration to pursue it because I didn't think it was possible. So why pursue a dream if you don't think it was ever possible to achieve that? And I don't know if it was ever a dream. I was considering, maybe becoming involved in civic politics when I retired, and would have been considering it for this fall of 17 locally. But I think what really happened for us is we had people, when the unfortunate and untimely passing of Mr. Hillier, in the days that followed, we had a number of people come up to us and say, Glenn, this is something you should consider doing. And these are not always people that we had political conversations with, because we didn't. And so we were, it gave us pause to make some consideration. A very good friend of mine had been involved in politics before. I was encouraging him to consider pursuing this. When he chose not to and encouraged us to and wanted to become involved with our campaign, Sue and I spent a considerable amount of time thinking and praying about it and seeing what our future would be like. And Sue had said, as we were preparing for retirement, she says, you have all these years, you're retiring we retired at 57 years old. You have a lot of experience, and you don't have to look for anything. If something comes along, you will know whether it's for you, and you'll continue to have purpose and use in whatever you do. And I quite honestly, I was not looking for anything, and so we were humbled by the confidence people placed in us, and we went through a lot of work with huge support from the community, and here we are.
So you had mentioned that you were interested in the civic politics. Did it ever cross your mind to maybe get into provincial politics, but you just jumped right into the federal politics?
Yeah, no, I had I had no interest in either one, honestly. Not interest. I had no desire to pursue those. And as people talk to us, and one of the questions that I as we were considering it seriously, I went to some current and former MPs, MLAs, civic leaders, business leaders, people that I have, a confidence in their ability to tell me honestly where things are at. And I asked them one question. I said, if you are looking for a federal representative at the MP level, what gaps do you see in me that would prevent me from being the type of representative you want for yourself, for your family, for your grandchildren? Is there anything you see in me that would prevent me from being a strong representative at that level? And I was very encouraged by the comments I had back, and it provided, again, I think some encouragement and support to move forward.
Perfect. Okay, so you've been in this role for a little while now. What have you enjoyed so much or so far?
I think the excitement of, we had a multi-pronged or tiered approach to get here. We had a very vigorous nomination process in the Conservative Party locally. We had 5 other great candidates. That was a great thing. I got to enjoy meeting people and getting involved in a cause outside yourself. And then we had the actual campaign where we spent a considerable amount of time all across the riding, meeting people and understanding their issues. And then when the election was called, we were working hard to secure the victory and again, meeting people. What I've enjoyed the most on this journey is the people, the trust and confidence people place, in another individual to represent them. I'm truly humbled by that. I'm impressed with the quality of people that I have met in Ottawa as other MPs from various parties. And our Conservative colleagues there are very strong. They've been very supportive. Everybody's been very gracious, and I've been most impressed with how they have accepted and have wanted to do what they can to help me be successful representing the people of this riding.
Absolutely. All right, so here on Upfront, we definitely put you in the hot seat. We have questions coming from the public. We're going to be talking about the carbon tax, so we're going to be talking about that coming up after the break. Welcome back to Upfront. Now we're going to jump in to the tax everyone has been talking about, the carbon tax. Now, the federal government has been talking about implementing a carbon tax. What is this going to look like for the wallets of Canadians?
Well, I think the provinces that have it already, and we can only speak, my experience has been only in Alberta, we see it at the gas pump now with $20 a ton that the Alberta NDPs are charging. We see it in our heating bills. The prices of things will logically have to be adjusted upwards in order to pay for. The consumer is the only end user that will be bearing the brunt of this, and we're all consumers. So with the federal government's plan now to add their own carbon levy tax beginning in 2018, with targets initially of up to $50 a ton, it's going to have, in my opinion, it's going to have catastrophic effects on our Canadian economy. It will ruin our continental competitiveness. When you think of companies in the United States who are in the same business as we are as Canadians that don't have this tax burden, it doesn't work. So Canadian companies could be leaving for the U.S. to be competitive. Our products aren't going to be as competitive. We're going to have to sell them at reduced rates, which means profit margins are down. The consumer, again, will be the target of paying more for everything. Like, is there anything you can think of that doesn't have some impact on fossil fuel or some connection to fossil fuel and what this carbon tax is designed to do? And there's nothing. Your food, the production of your food from the farmer, to the transportation of it to the grocery store operator having to pay more to heat a store and electricity for a store, to your own home, your own car. Like, eventually, there will be nothing more that people are able to pay. And in my opinion, this is not the way to approach caring for our environment. And BC's experience, from what I've been reading, is that their CO2 production has not been reduced because of their tax in BC at all. And so it's a consumer penalty. You're going to pay you to reduce. That's the whole idea. If you use less, then you pay less. But can you eat less food? I don't know.
That's a good point. Now, we already pay it in Alberta. How is it going to impact us here? I mean, are we just going to be paying more?
Yeah, that's the bottom line. We're paying $20 a ton now. Extrapolate that forward to 50. So if it's, all things being equal, take your current payment and times it by 2.5. I guess would be an easy way or a simpler way to look at it. But, I think what's more problematic is there's some industries right now that are being unduly punished because of it. And Canada's CO2 emissions are about 1.6% of the world's CO2 emissions. And when I went to school, absorption was also a part of emission. So Canada actually absorbs 20 to 30% more than we produce. So we're not a carbon neutral country, we're a carbon negative country. So we should be getting payments from other parts of the world because we've reduced that much. We have that much water, agriculture, forestry that absorbs CO2. And CO2 is not a poison. Our plants live on it. And so, there's the reason it's controversial is because science there's various views out there, and no one is disputing that we all have a responsibility to care for our environment. And I think there is a responsible, measured response that we need to have as politicians to ensure that it's not done on the backs of consumers.
All right. So I want to shift gears here. We're going to go now to a man who makes a lot of headlines, Donald Trump. He is now in the White House down in the States, and I want to find out what your opinion is on how our relationship is with the States.
We're fortunate to have a country like the United States that's been an ally and a partner in much of what we do. It's our biggest trading partner. And I know there's been a lot of rhetoric that has gone on during an election campaign, which there always is. And from what we're hearing from officials out of the United States and from our own conservative delegations who've been down and have met with Trump officials and governors and other government people, we need to ensure that our competitiveness remains. We need to ensure that our trade agreements remain strong, and there is a sense that our economies might have some mutual benefit that we can work on. I know Mr. Trump, Mr. President, he has already committed to Keystone XL, which will help get our product to international markets. That's a boom for the Western Canada, and I'm not overly concerned that that some would have us believe that the sky is falling. I'm not going to weigh in on his style or some of the controversial things that appear to be constant there, but from a Canada perspective, I think there's reason for cautious optimism, and moving forward with a deliberate, partnership concept, I think is workable and doable.
Mm-hmm. Now, we did have a couple of people just walk across the border. What is your stance on that?
Well, I'm troubled. I'm troubled that we have a safe third country agreement with the United States that unfortunately has a land crossing loophole. It doesn't apply to that. I don't consider them to be refugees. In the truest sense of the word, a refugee is someone who leaves a circumstance where they or their families are in imminent danger. And that is not what's happening in the United States. We need to have and maintain border integrity and border security. And I'm troubled that this influx now is going to, in my opinion, probably create more of an influx. And these people then are jumping the queue, if you will, and those who have followed legitimate legal processes to be here and to be in this country are not going to be getting the same queue attention, and probably going to be waiting. I mean, Canada prides itself in our history. My history has been on immigration. My father came here when he was a child, and it's a land of opportunity, and it's a land where Canada embraces people because from different countries, and we shouldn't stop that, but we should have a reasoned and a sound vetting process that is we have in our country, and that should be maintained and continued. And if you were to cross the border in the same way, you would be shipped back. And it's troubling that there's and you talk to the immigrant population that is already here, and I have. Many of them are troubled by this. They don't agree with it. They think it's unfortunate and unfair.
Right.
And I'll use a phrase that one of them actually used. He said they're country shopping. They may not like the United States or the opportunities they have there, so they are country shopping. And that was, a strong immigrant in our community who is productive and contributing to our society. That's his viewpoint. And you know what? You can't dispute that, because it appears that's what's happening. And so I'm troubled that this is being supported and perpetuated to the point of a strain on our local resources. Not so much here, but in those areas. And so what it does, the government can say, the Liberal government can say, we'll welcome anybody, which is fantastic. But at some point in time, communities pay that. It costs to have people here. And so if we don't do it in a measured way, then we open ourselves up to the potential for risk and for an inappropriate resource allocations.
Yeah, so really these people should be following the protocol of coming into our country.
They should.
All right. Okay, well, we have lots more to cover, so we'll be back right after this. Well, we're back here on Upfront with Glen Motz. Thank you so much for joining us again.
My pleasure, Leanne. Thank you.
All right. So the Federal Conservative Party is going through a leadership election campaign. Tell me your thoughts on the campaign so far.
I'm very impressed with generally with the quality of people that are involved in this race. I'm also impressed with I see those that are current sitting MPs. They visit lots there. There's great camaraderie amongst them. I heard something. I had a lady ask me the other day. So I'm hearing there's some real fracturing going on in the Conservative Party because of this leadership race. And I went, oh no, nothing could be further from the truth. It's actually, I think, it's bringing people alive again. It's invigorating them into a Conservative cause. I think the interest that we have generated across this country with the number of people that are vying for these positions, and is there disagreement on some policy issues sometimes? Sure. You and I might disagree on stuff, right? Which is okay. That is healthy. And it incites debate and fantastic. But as far as animosity or fracturing or anything like that, I think there might be some over-exaggeration by some of our left-leaning media that aren't conservative fans who might suggest that, but I haven't seen that at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you're in the House of Commons, does the campaign kind of get in the way, or is it business as usual?
Oh no, it's all business as usual. Mm-hmm. These individuals who are sitting MPs currently, who are in this race, have been very professional. Their current roles, they've been moved to the back benches so they don't interfere with the operations of the opposition. As the official opposition, we have a role to play. We have serious business to deal with in the country, and this has not detracted from that whatsoever. These individuals contribute to our caucus meetings, and they're well-respected people, and I haven't seen any disruption from this process at all. I just have different people sitting beside me than I would normally.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay, again, switching gears. When you're back here in, Medicine Hat, Cardston, and Warner, what is some of the big concerns that you've been hearing from your riding?
Well, whether I'm here or down in Ottawa, people are always, and I encourage them to email, phone, whatever. And there's been a lot of issues. There are, the motion M103 on, it's commonly known now as the Islamophobia motion. That invoked a lot of response from the community, and we've responded to everyone that's emailed or telephoned in and given them our position, and the fact that with the current language that it's written in, I can't support it. I don't think it has the desired intent, and besides that, the Conservatives presented a motion that would include all faiths, and so we're talking about ending systemic discrimination and racism, and we can't identify one faith group. We have to identify and list them all, and if we wanted to not have religious discrimination, then it's against all, for all religions to not have religious discrimination. Mm-hmm. Some of the other issues that I hear all the time is jobs. The fact that in our locally and in our right around Medicine Hat, we are still on a very slow recovery from our energy bust and the loss of thousands of jobs in this region. There is some optimism, but still our recovery rate is quite slow. And so, our Conservative colleagues and I, we've started this Alberta Jobs Task Force, and last fall there was people weighed in and give us recommendations on how they would suggest our federal government move forward on these job creation issues. And so there was 11 recommendations came out of that. It's been presented to the Liberal government, to Finance, on on how we can help and stimulate the Alberta economy. So job creation is a big deal, and getting our pipeline, our energy, east on the Energy East pipeline, and and west as well. Also, matters of Liberal spending. People are very concerned that their children, and their children's children will be responsible for years and decades to come to pay for the reckless Liberal spending that is here, and the debt that we're racking up, and the fact that in reality, I'm not an economist, but if I was to run my business like the federal government is running government, during a downturn, you don't spend more if you don't have it to spend.
Right.
Because the only way government's going to get more money is by taking it from you and your family. And as Conservatives, we don't believe in that. We believe in fiscal responsibility. We believe in getting out of the way of the entrepreneurs in our country and businesses, so they can do what they do best, and that is, employ people and make products that we can trade and stimulate the Canadian economy. So those things, they trouble our residents. They're quite aggravated about those things, and they feel that maybe that part, there's some aspects of the Liberal government that is out of touch with our reality that we experience here.
Right.
You can say one thing, but what you do with what you know kind of speaks to whether you actually know and care about a region.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we really appreciate your time here on Upfront today.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today on Upfront. We'll see you next time.